Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to entitled people, where you know the deal. People truly believe they can do what they want, when they want, because they're special. And in today's episode, holy moly, you're in for a ride. We've got mooching Karens, dumb shoplifters, power-tripping Karen bosses, and one OP tells a story about the time this psycho Karen punishes his brother by pushing him off a bridge. Guys, I hope you enjoy the stories today. Don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. Our town has a children's museum. It's cute and full of activities, from baby through 9 or so. The baby and toddler areas have gates that latch for obvious reasons. Well, this Karen decided that she would use authority to have her toddler leave. So she opens the toddler gates and she tells her child it's time to leave now. Well, her kid doesn't move and clearly wants to stay and play. Instead of closing the gates, retrieving the toddler, and going on with life, Karen decided to hold the gate open and she starts demanding her toddler listen. So of course, the other toddlers book it out, and Karen continues to hold the gate open and she does nothing to prevent this. She just keeps yelling at her kid. Of course, instant chaos as parents and grandparents scramble to catch the escaped tots. And seriously, these kids are quick. The toddlers are running to open elevators, to balconies, into the manager's office, and my child was booking it towards the stairs. I'm about to catch her when she ducks into the art room, and I notice a toddler nearly to the stair landing, which are 2-story and stone. I quickly see Grandma going as fast as she can, but she's nowhere near fast enough. So I leave my kid to her painty fate and I snatch up Darius and deliver him to a grateful grandma. I then hear a dad say, "Close the gate," as he has one twin in a surfboard meltdown and another has just booked it out of the gate towards me and the paint room. Well, this Karen then yells at him that it's not her job to watch his kids, as she's got 3 kids of her own to handle. She's still holding open the gate, by the way. I'm acting as a shepherd of sorts between the toddlers and the stairs, and paint is everywhere with unsupervised tots not wearing their paint-proof smocks going hog wild. Apparently, my daughter's favorite color is yellow. With this sudden chaos, a manager came to see what's happening, and the 2 dads point to Karen, who finally picked up her child and shut the gate. Karen then tells the manager how she felt unsafe, because the dad who yelled "close the gate" scared her and she demands action. By then, I head over, yellow gremlin in arms, as all the tots are corralled, and me and Grandma back up the dads and say how irresponsible her behavior was. Karen then launches into a tirade how it's not her job to watch all of our kids. The manager tells her she's banned and she starts screaming, so security gathers her and her 3 kids and they march them out. I feel bad for her children, but honestly girl, how entitled do you have to be? A simple "I'm sorry, I froze when the kids ran out, I wasn't thinking straight" would have sufficed. Literally anything, but she wanted to act like she was a victim of unsafe. After releasing half a dozen toddlers into dangerous situations. Some people literally don't give a care about anyone else, right? Like anyone with even half a brain would have closed the gate after the first kid got out, but not Karen. Let's let all the kids run wild. It's not my job to watch those kids. But yeah, OP's description of the toddler escape was superb, wasn't it? Like, just imagining all the kids thinking freedom and booking it had me chuckle. But seriously, like OP said, I'm glad nothing crazy happened, like a child tumbling down the stairs or something. Because seriously, if you don't know how quickly a toddler can move from one place to another, you don't know how panicked these parents got. Some frickin' people, I tell you. So I used to work at a college bookstore, and I have a tale for you. This happened a few years back. We were getting ready for the rush at the start of the fall semester. Not many customers came in though, so most of our work was just taking deliveries and organizing stock. We'd hired a lot of people for this, which meant after we'd finish unpacking a delivery, there would be very little to do until the next one came. I'm usually not one for chit-chat unless there's absolutely nothing to do, and usually I find something to keep me busy. As I'm dusting the shelves and straightening the textbooks, these two girls walk into the store. They're each about 5 foot tall, blonde, and about 18 years old. Not something most people would find sketchy, but the first thing I noticed was that they were both wearing empty backpacks, like flat to their backs empty, with the zippers open. One of my coworkers asked them if they need help finding something, and one of them says, "No, we're just looking around. We don't go to this school." I'm still busy around the bookshelves when I notice that they've been in the store a weirdly long time. One of the girls is perusing the shelves and the others at the front, chatting with all 9 of my coworkers. I walk past a particular aisle and I can see the girl at the bookshelves shoving books into her backpack. The girl doesn't see me. Meanwhile, the girl at the front is talking in the loudest, most obnoxious way possible. She's asking questions like, "Do you go to school here? Cool. Do you go to school here? Cool. What about you?" And seriously, she did it to each and every one of them. I'm assuming the volume was meant to signal to her partner that all the staff were still distracted, and sadly, it was working. I could not believe that 9 of my coworkers were having their attention monopolized by something so stupid. It's at this point I went to the back to tell the manager what's going on, and he phoned campus police with a description, and he tells them they're still in the store, as we're not allowed to confront shoplifters ourselves. Soon after, the girls walk out with their previously empty backpacks now dragging down past their butts. We'd been hoping campus police would arrive in time, but it seemed like they had gotten away. But they came back. About 10 minutes later, the girls wander back into the store, and they ask one of my coworkers, "Hey, can you tell us where the exit is? We can't find our way out." So what's funny is they came to steal from a school they didn't go to, whose bookstore is on the basement floor of a huge building, and they didn't bother with an exit plan. My manager decides to walk them to the exit. I phone campus police again to tell them where they were headed, and they meet them at the door. The stolen books were about $1,200 altogether, and stealing $250 plus is a felony here. My manager then gave my coworkers an earful for missing something so obvious. You know, they say most criminals are dumb, but this, oh my goodness. Like, those two just stole $1,200 worth of books and they practically got away, but then came back. Like, why? And seriously, I'm not condoning stealing because I hate thieves, but literally, those girls could have asked anyone but the store employees. Like, are you freaking kidding me? If you're that not smart, maybe you do deserve jail. And this person comments, I don't know, once we had a guy try to steal a hot roast chicken by stuffing it down his pants and running from security. Those girls seemed organized in comparison. So I've been enjoying these posts for a couple of months now, and finally, I've decided to join up and post a few of my own experiences. And oh boy, do I have a few. I'm also an old guy, so hopefully you like my short story. So that said, the year's 1972, and I'm 14, going on 15. A friend who was 16 years old had a drop-top 68 Camaro, and we went to a drive-in theater to watch some old B-movie sci-fi. Top down, of course. The middle of the second showing, I wanted some snacks. My friend told me what he wanted, so I head in the direction of the snack bar. About halfway there, I walk by a car with a man and a woman in it. As I start by, the woman Karen in a nasally voice says, "Hey kid, here." I knew immediately she was talking to me. The woman leans out the window and she said, "Get me 2 large popcorns, 2 large Cokes, and a box of Milk Duds." And I want to note, this was many moons ago, so I can't really remember what all of it was that she wanted. I just look at her, taking note of her disheveled beehive hairdo, and just kept walking. I keep my head down and I tried to ignore her as she instantly went full-on Karen mode and then started screaming at me. I heard the man say, "Hey, don't leave the car." But her screaming drowned out whatever he was trying to say. And then I hear a car door slam. The next instant, I felt claws in my arm near the elbow as the woman grabs me and she pulls me around, screaming that she knew my boss. I jerked my arm away from her and I told her to get her own stuff. Then, I turned around and start walking again, only a little faster. That's when I felt something hit me in my back, nearly knocking me down. She had picked up an empty beer bottle and she threw it at me. The woman starts towards me again, telling me how she wanted to talk to my boss and she would get me fired. The woman had a real motor mouth going, and she followed me to the snack bar, still screeching at me. As we enter, she pushes past me, and she demands one of those people behind the counter to get the boss while pointing her finger at me. The lady behind the counter that she just made her demand to just so happened to be the manager. The manager looked at me, then at Karen, and then said, "Ma'am, that's just a kid." Karen then sputters and says, What do you mean he's just a kid?" And that was my cue to tell what happened. While I was talking, a guy walked in. He listened for a minute and then said he saw the whole thing as we went by his car, and every bit of what I said was the truth. The manager then steps to a door to the back room where the projector was. He spoke in a low tone and a very big guy stepped out. The manager then told Karen that she had better get back to her car and leave. Karen starts to protest, but she shut herself down when this big guy steps out from behind the counter and towered over her. He followed her to her car and they drove off. A month later, I got a job working at the very same drive-in. The manager said he'd never seen Karen before or since. What a story that was, and for all who are wondering why cops weren't involved, Opie comes back and says there was no evidence except for the bruise on my back, which could have come from anything, and the one witness. You also have to remember the time period. Back then, you didn't call the cops for little stuff like this. And listen, I knew the 80s were a different time, guys, but I had no idea that Karens were allowed to walk around assaulting people like that. Like a smack, I can see letting that slide, but a whole beer bottle to the back? Like, what kind of psycho tries to hit a kid with a beer bottle? And guys, you know for sure she was aiming for the back of the head. In my opinion, at that point, either get the cops involved or just give back what Karen dished out and then run for it. And if you thought that story was wild, listen to this one. About a decade ago, I worked as the resident technician at Staples. I repaired computers for stores' customers. Our uniform was khakis and a black polo with a lime green collar and company name and logo on the chest. The day this happened, I got off shift, and I headed over to Best Buy. While I'm there, I spot a regular customer of mine. The woman was an odd duck, but she was very sweet. She was a little old lady in Maine. The woman liked the weird clothes and outrageous makeup and nails. Anyways, she knows I don't work at Best Buy, but couldn't get anyone to help her. I wasn't doing anything important, and she had bought hundreds of dollars of stuff from me over the last few months. So I start my sales questions. I like to know what people are looking for, what they intend to use the product for, and price range. Often, people insist they need one thing, but actually, they need something completely different, and it's just easier to ask rather than do exchanges. So we get to the computer section, and I try to find an associate while helping her. We hop on a demo laptop, and I do a Best Buy search for things she might be interested in. What she wanted didn't appear to be in stock. So I switched to the Staples site to see if we had it in stock. We did have it, and I told her I would meet her at the store as soon as I finished buying my DVDs. I said maybe 20 minutes, as my store was only a mile or so down the road from the mall. The woman left, and I get into line. All of a sudden, I get yanked hard out of line by a man who I've never seen before in a floor manager outfit. The guy proceeds to drag me to another register, and I'm thinking, well, this is a rude way to open a new lane. The guy then pulls me behind the register, and he tells me to open up and start ringing up customers. And what the hell are you doing just standing here? I just have a stupid look on my face, as I don't know what's happening. I try to say that I'm a customer, but the guy's not listening. A couple of people are staring at us from other lines. At this point, I say that I can help if they really need it, but I don't know how to work their systems, and I shouldn't be handling money since I'm not an employee. The guy gets all huffy, obviously not really listening. The manager punches in his code to unlock the register and then walks off. I turn to look around and I'm bewildered. A few people are snickering at the cashier line right next to that lane, and they said, "What the hell was that?" I reply, I had no clue. This is when I ask to speak to a manager, and a call went out over the speaker system, and the same person came back, and the guy starts yelling at me for not working. I then asked for his boss. At this point, he throws a tantrum, but the cashier called the store manager on her own, as obviously they saw their floor manager was off their rocker. This is when the GM comes over and he asked what I'm doing behind a register, and I said, I don't know. I was trying to buy 2 movies and I was aggressively grabbed and pulled here. The GM then said I shouldn't be trying to check myself out, and I said I wasn't trying to. The floor manager keeps spouting off that all new hires are awful, and that's when it clicks for the GM. I then lay out the story, including how the register was unlocked for me and how I could have just emptied the register and taken off. The GM then lays into the floor manager, pointing out that my uniform is for a competing store with a different color scheme. The floor manager then realized how stupid they had been and was told to wait in the GM's office. I got my stuff rung up and I paid for it at the register they stuck me at, and then head back to Staples. All in all, I spent an hour at Best Buy. It was a funny story to tell the lady waiting at Staples. My boss even had me log back in to ring her out, and he said he would log me out in an hour, so I get paid for the time I spent making a sale in my off time. Yeah, I really hope that floor manager got fired because what he did was unacceptable. Like, even if OP was an employee there, aggressively grabbing them and yanking them over to a register is freaking psycho behavior. And seriously, you really have to wonder how these people become the boss in the first place. And with being the boss, you would think the guy would be able to tell the difference between a worker and a customer. Like, I'm just baffled. So, although I don't have any proof of what happened, I hope you can all take my word for it and enjoy the story. I live in a medium-sized town of about 40,000 people, and much of the area is rural, and I was about 9 at the time of the Great Shove. There is a bridge that connects 2 very popular hiking trails that runs over a wide river, and despite its length and width, the river's only about 15 feet deep at its deepest point. Anyways, the trail is always packed in early summer to late fall, since the bridge is the only way to access the other trail without taking a swim in the river. So that said, my dad, my brother, and I were crossing the bridge to get to the other trail when my dad requested that we stop and take some photos of the mountain view we had. My brother, who was 7 at the time, was doing that kid thing where they hoist themselves above a railing with their hands, but stay in that position. He was enjoying the views when this angry woman comes running up to us. She had one of those baby carriers that you strap to your chest with an infant in it. The Karen stopped right behind my brother and she uttered, "You're not setting a good example for my daughter," and then promptly pushes my brother off the bridge. Naturally, my dad, me, and everyone else crossing the bridge were in shock. I saw someone immediately dial 911 and my dad began yelling at her. I was just bawling and looking over the edge, where I saw my brother had surfaced, and thank goodness he's a good swimmer. The drop was only about 20 feet, but there was no way he landed on his feet after he tumbled off. A bunch of people started yelling at him to swim to the shore, but I could see that he was too busy screaming and crying to listen to what they were saying. I then turned back to my dad, and I saw the lady was matching his level of anger, and the woman was shouting as loud as he was. All I could hear from the Karen were things like, "Well, I'm sick and tired of kids setting a bad example. I didn't want your son to be a bad influence for my daughter. What if she tried to do something like that?" My dad just screams back, "I don't care about your effing daughter. Why the hell did you push my son off a bridge?" A squad car pulls up after about 10 minutes, and my dad had dashed off to try to find my brother, and a bunch of hikers were yelling at the woman to try to prevent her from running away from the scene. The cops hop out of the car and they stride over to Karen. One of them opens their mouth to say something, and literally, Karen turns around and starts running at the cop, grabbing him. The other cop and several other hikers immediately try to pull her off. Not because she was attacking the cop, but because she had practically belly flopped on him with an effing baby on her chest. As soon as they get her off, she starts running at the cop again. The strap that held the baby must have broken because someone had scooped her up so the cops could take action. The second cop immediately puts a round through her shoulder. After shrieking, the woman passes out and the cops took her to an ambulance that was waiting by the squad car. The baby was crying and a paramedic took her from him and carried her away. I was still crying and I kept on sobbing until my dad appears with my soaking wet brother about 25 minutes later. The cops then ask us a ton of questions. My brother ends up being fine, but totally shaken. As I said, lucky he's a strong swimmer for his age. We went home and slowly began to recover. 2 weeks later, we were contacted by someone from the police department. We find out the lady had serious mental health issues and most likely saw my brother as a threat to her child, rather than her story of him being a bad influence. Despite the surprising results, I still hate her for what she did, and I'll never forgive her. This was back in early 2013, and the woman ends up serving a 7-year prison sentence for attempted manslaughter, child endangerment, and assault. I hope she came to her senses. Thanks for sticking by me for the whole story, folks. So I have a perfume collection that I started when I was a teenager slinging burritos as my first job. I have over 400 bottles at this point. I take great pride in my collection and I use it. I'm also happy to give people samples of most of my bottles, or even give some bottles as gifts. So all that said, what I have a huge effing issue with is my 17-year-old niece coming into my home under the guise of walking my dog, stealing my bottles on her own, and then selling the samples to her friends at school. She thinks that because I have so many bottles, I wouldn't notice some missing or getting massive dents in them. Well, Little Miss Entrepreneur failed to realize that her private Instagram account wasn't friends only or whatever, and I saw each and every story with each price and sample she had. I tallied that crap up, and I got a pretty good estimate based on cost per ounce. Thankfully, she mostly picked the TikTok famous perfumes, like Bianco Latte, and she didn't go for the more rare niche perfumes. She did snatch an entire 2.5-ounce bottle of Baccarat Rouge though, which runs about $300 plus at most retailers, as well as full bottles of perfumes that you can get at Sephora, like Marc Jacobs Daisy, Burberry Her Elixir, Flower Bomb, etc. Petty or not, I print out the entire list of what she's taken, the price estimate, and then hand it off to my sister, her mom. I said I expect it to be paid back in full. And of course, her effing little sneaky butt is never allowed in my home again. My sister got super pissy with me, going on about how my niece is just a kid and kids make mistakes, and she's family, so she's allowed to do stuff like this. I said that yes, kids do make mistakes, and this is a great way for my niece to learn from hers. And no, family can't just rob family members. Their argument is that now the money she was going to use for a car has to go towards paying me back. And seriously, I don't care. She used my perfume to make that money. She's lucky that I have no interest involving the police, small claims, or any of that. But am I the a-hole because she is a teenager? In my opinion, I don't think anyone in their right mind would think that OP is the a-hole for wanting her niece to face the consequences of her actions. Like, it's as simple as that. And honestly, if this issue isn't resolved and her mom just sweeps it under the rug like she's trying to do, I believe her niece will learn a lesson the hard way when police do get involved, because the next person might not be so kind. That aside, guys, I frickin' hate how family members use the, "Oh, we're family so we can do what we want," or "she's your niece, go easy on her." Seriously, niece or not, she's a frickin' little thief, and at 17 years old, she should know way better. And one of the top comments on this post is, "You are not the a-hole." I can see from the fact that her mom considers a 17-year-old just a kid, as if she were a 5-year-old who stole a cookie before dinner has caused her to act very entitled. She's made a series of decisions to steal from you and profit from it. And she's either just a kid when she's stealing your pricey scents, or she's almost an adult saving up for a car. Can't have it both ways on your dime. You'll be teaching her a better lesson than her mom bothered to. And this person says, this teen is lucky the lesson only involves having to pay back what she stole, instead of having charges pressed. OP's being nicer about this than a lot of people would. 17 years old is way too old to excuse stealing. If she tries this in less than a year with the wrong person, she'll end up with a criminal record for the rest of her adult life. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this post. If a family member stole from you, would you excuse it or would you punish them? Like, I know it's harder with family members, but you know what? Some people have to learn that actions have consequences. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of /entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/petty revenge episode, where Karens are getting taught lessons they won't forget. The stories are absolutely hilarious, guys. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.